1070 Mini I picked up for 175. RX 570 4 gigs with RGB Asus Aura Sync, 65 bucks. This RX 570 is filthy. So I'm gonna use my air compressor to do some initial cleaning. Excuse me, kid. I already sold this RX 570, but I made a slight mistake on the price, so I didn't make as much as I wanted to on it. I made about 10 bucks, I think, where I usually aim for 18 bucks. It's pretty dirty. Initial air compression, cleaning. Didn't do a whole lot. I take it this card has never ever been cleaned. It was probably in a high humidity environment. This 1070 Mini is not as bad. It is and it ain't. It doesn't have as much dust, but it looks like the metal has taken some wear. Like, yeah, you see that? Backplate is discolored a bit. Looks like it has some rust on it. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be all one color, but it's not. I had no idea it's only one 8-pin connector. And if you don't know, now you know. Looks as if there's some grease right here too. It's kind of wet. I asked him if he used it for gaming or what. He didn't actually answer. He said he was just trying to unload all the stuff that he has. So it could have been used for mining. Whatever, 175 bucks. Looks like these are bent. Maybe they picked it up from here, or there was some installation mishap, who knows. As long as it runs and works fine, it's all good. This is after initial air compressor cleaning. Next up, these items were featured in a previous video. We have an ASRock AB350 motherboard for 40 bucks, an 800 watt Raid Max gold rated PSU 440, and completing the trifecta is an AMD Ryzen R5 1600 for 40 bucks. These were all bundled together for 120, talked down from a list price of $45 each. I think I might put the motherboard in my own build because I have a basic no frills motherboard with less features, but I do plan on selling off the other components either individually or as a build. This 8 gig XFX RX 480 was listed at 80 bucks, but I asked if he'd take 60 and he did. It's about a half-hour drive, so it's not too bad. Now I'm waiting on an AMD R7 1700X CPU. I did end up picking up that Ryzen 7 1700, and that came in at 70 bucks, and it was a CPU by itself, no cooler. Aside from being a little dusty, this card looks like it's in really good shape. Person said they never really used it. The user of this card used it for not too long before they moved on to console, and it's just been sitting there, literally collecting dust ever since. So, not even gonna repaste this. I'm just gonna blow the dust out. Yeah, the PCB looks pretty clean. Aside from dust, no stains or anything like that. Yeah, should be good to go. Now these next 3 items I picked up in one trip. First we have this TX 750 750 watt PSU by Corsair, and this came in at 30 bucks. Now this was a risk because the seller said that this PSU was causing his system to shut down, as he had discovered the fan was no longer spinning, so he needed to replace it, which he did. He said after replacing the fan, the system booted up fine and no longer was shutting down and was stable. He also said I couldn't return it if it didn't work, but only if it was within that same day, which didn't inspire a lot of confidence, but I took it anyway. I tested it as soon as I got it home on a not too power hungry system. I think it was an i5 2400 and something like an RX 480, and yeah, it booted up fine. I ran some stress tests to max out the CPU and GPU, and it was stable. Eventually I paired it up with more power hungry components and it still ran fine until recently. So now I have it paired with a Ryzen 5 1600 and an MSI RX 580 4 gig. Booting up that system for the first time, the 750 watt PSU, it's still working, but it's making a very high pitched coil whine noise, and it's very audible. I wouldn't use this myself, and I wouldn't want to sell it off like this. I think what I'm gonna do is try to fix it. On the same day, I also picked up 2 HP systems with i5 3470s in them, and those came in at $30 each. Now I've taken one i5 out of them to put them in the SPC and replaced it with an i5 2400. I also pulled the RAM out of both of them. They both had single 4 gig sticks. They now each have two 2 gig sticks, which is pretty small. So for anything other than basic use, that would need to be upgraded. Emphasis on basic. These also came with a 500 gig hard drive each. Now lastly, we have this case with power supply, which came in at $20. The case is a Cooler Master case with the word Elite written on the front, and it came with this 400 watt Corsair PSU, which has a 6-pin power connector for video cards, which doesn't sound like much, but graphics cards are always getting more efficient. I guess it's all relative. Now moving on, we got ourselves a 27-inch monitor for $25. It's a basic 1080p display with HDMI in with a 60 Hz refresh rate. Now finishing up, this last item is a pair of SSDs, 525 gig capacity by Crucial, and it is the MX300, and I managed to get the pair for $50, so that's $25 each. It was a hard deal to pass up, and it was kind of hard to let them go, but I've already sold these off. Whoops, I didn't mean to lie. That wasn't the last item. The last thing I picked up was a pair of i7 systems. The listing had one of these i7 6700 systems for $120, I believe it was, and I offered $100, and the person accepted. When I got there, he asked if I was interested in another system, the same CPU. This is the smaller form factor of the two, and I got that for $60. That was cheaper because it didn't have any RAM in it, and also it was pretty dirty. It had a bunch of sand in it. When I got it home, it wouldn't even boot up. I tried different RAM in it, and no, it just had that constant beep on it. One I think tells you that something is wrong with the RAM. It might just need a good cleaning, which I haven't done, but I already sold off the CPU because I didn't want to really deal with it yet. But I do plan on trying to bring that system back to life. So this is all the stuff I picked up in the first quarter of 2020. I still have the i7 towers, the SSDs are gone, I still have the 27-inch display, the case that came with the 400 watt PSU I still have, and I'm using that as a test bench. The Ryzen 5 1600 combo I also still have. The RX 480 is gone. I still have the GTX 1070, but the RX 570 is also gone. So I guess I have more systems than GPUs to put in them. Anyway, that's gonna be it for now. Take care of yourselves. 1700X gone.